and it's so wonderful to see so many people here today. Do we have any teachers in the room? Fantastic. Well, we have just had, in the NEU, we have just had the biggest ballot ever for strike action. 90% of teachers in England and Wales voted to strike for a fully funded, above inflation pay rise. And what is amazing, what's really amazing is since last Monday's announcement of the result of the strike ballot, nearly 40,000 teachers have joined the union. It shows that there's an appetite from all of us to put up a fight, which is absolutely brilliant. Today, nearly 300,000 teachers are striking, along with train drivers, university lecturers, and civil service workers. 500,000 workers on strike today, in the biggest day of strike action in more than a decade. Nurses, ambulance staff, posties, rail workers and firefighters, while not out today, are also in dispute. And that's because we are all in it together. We are all key workers and we have had enough. The reason why teachers are striking is that we feel we have no choice because this government is not listening. Our education system is in crisis and we need to save our schools. We're striking about pay, first and foremost. Teachers have lost 23% in real terms since 2010. Support staff have lost 27% in the real value of our pay. And education has been hit harder than other comparable sectors. Teachers' pay has fallen 15% behind professional services since 2010. I was a teacher in further education for 30 years and came into secondary education only in September through the COVID recovery funding. I came in as an academic mentor to support children who were falling behind. But that funding has been scrapped and the school is having to pay. I'm on a full-time equivalent of 21 grand. Not much to show after 30 years of teaching. But in comparison to my colleagues, I consider myself lucky because I'm of the generation that had free university education and so no loans to pay back. In the 1980s, two working partners could get a mortgage on a family house without needing to inherit. When my kids were young, I got free childcare, including half terms and holidays. And that's why I feel lucky, and if I were a young teacher today, I don't think I'd go into education. Teachers, like most workers, are struggling to make ends meet, and the teaching assistants, they aren't even paid for school holidays. Presumably they can switch off their kids and their washing machines and their freezers for the duration of the holidays. So if you're a TA, your annual pay works out at less than the minimum wage. It's a scandal, because where would our schools be without our TAs? About pay. Teachers work more overtime than any other profession. More than 32 hours per week of unpaid overtime. So all that nonsense about, oh, teachers get long holidays. Yeah, but we work. That's what we do in the holidays. Why do we do that? Well, have you ever met a teacher who thinks they're good enough? Is there any teacher here who thinks they do everything that is required of us. None of us, I don't think, because we are under unparalleled scrutiny. Can you imagine if there was an Ofsted for landlords or for MPs? But probably most of you feel the same way that I do, that Ofsted is a weapon of mass demoralisation, whose role is to undermine teachers' self-esteem. They expect us to produce a cordon bleu meal on a camping stove. And rather than challenge the expectation, too often we blame ourselves, because it's much harder to demand better pay and conditions if you're on the defensive. And those are the reasons why we have a crisis of recruitment and retention. A quarter of teachers leave within 2 years of qualification. A third within 5 years. And the impact that has on our kids is devastating. Only 1 in 8 maths lessons is taught by a teacher qualified in maths. Sorry, I got that wrong way round. 1 in 8 is taught by a teacher not qualified in maths. And I have to say myself, I'm an English teacher and I've taught maths. And Christian's a maths teacher, whether he's taught English or not, I don't know. But primary classes are the biggest that they've been since 2000. Secondary classes are bigger than they have been for 40 years. And what about our school buildings and the resources? Well, I know in the school that I
Hello everyone, what a great turnout, I didn't expect so many people to be here. Who knew we have so many people in Hastings to start with? Thank you. I'm glad I never went to Eton, and I've learned far more learning from the trade union movement in the last 3 or 4 years. I'm 26 years old, and I've learned so much more. Hear me? Yeah? I'll start again. I'm glad I never went to Eton, and I've learned far more learning from the trade union movement as a whole, with working class people at the forefront. I've also learned something called common sense, as many of us in this room will also have. Unlike our new Prime Minister, who currently filmed himself sitting in a car that was moving with no seatbelt on. As a young worker, I would like to show my gratitude to every working person in this room for your support, strength and solidarity. As today and for many days to follow, united we will fight and pave the way for a life without outrageous attacks on every worker in this country. Compliance is not a lesson that children need, but this is the reality of what's going on in schools in Hastings right now. Most are not schools anymore, they're academies, and at the top of the academies, they're CEOs. CEOs of your children that are going to school who do nothing or know nothing about working class values. I can't imagine what it's like a schoolway patrol with militants from complying from the second you walk through the door to the moment you go home, to a household with one or both parents working full-time jobs to not be able to turn the heating on. Public support is on the rise, as it rightly should be. We must support each other. No working class person can deny injustice by this inhumane Tory government. A message to those that wish to oppress us. We warn you that we will repeal all anti-trade union laws. We are showing you that an injury to one is an injury to us all. We are standing together to redistribute the wealth from the self-serving few to us the many. We remain resilient against the ever-tightening shackles you put upon us. We are not prepared to bow down and be bound to this government as slaves to contract worth no more than the scraps of fat-cap employers and self-serving government. We are the working class. We will fight for social justice. not just for this generation, but for every race, age, shape and religion to follow. We all knew self-serving party at the top of this government. We will not be silenced as prisoners to an unbalanced system. Parents are supporting teachers, patients are supporting nurses. Those who use public transport are supporting the whole rail network, and we are here today supporting every single working person in this country. Enough is enough. We demand better because we deserve better. Time is now. If you're not yet in a union, join one. Support the vulnerable. Support the children in this country. And let's show them all the way that the working class is not to ever be silenced. Thank you.
Emancipation, the fact or process of being set free from legal, social or political restrictions. Liberation. To emancipate, therefore, is to be set free, to liberate. Unions, workers, good people of this town, let's stand together in this aim. Let's emancipate from these circumstances that are put in front of us. To stand against a government and a system that brings over us all of its power, its influence, its privilege and its spite. That brings laws to take away our basic civil liberties and our rights. The minimum service bill, a law that is stacked in the favour of the government, big corporations and employers alike, that starts a race to the bottom for our pay, conditions, public services, rights and civil liberties. Firefighters, nurses, teachers, transport workers and other workers are named in this awful bill. They surely have lost this argument with us when considering fair pay, conditions and the future of our profession. When this oppressive animal loses, it attacks and demonises its workers, changes the rules, blames groups of individuals and criminalises our dissent towards them when we stand up and say that this is all wrong. It says to us, put up or shut up, put up or get the sack, enough is enough. With a raft of laws this government is pushing through, they are intent on silencing the people of this country, and we say enough is enough. Today, our fabulous teachers and our educators start their fight in response to the crisis in education and stand up to say enough is enough. It's not lost on us what teachers are facing, and it's not lost on us that this is not just about pay. This is about the future of their profession. It's not lost on us that teachers work through the pandemic, putting risk to themselves, opening the doors to pupils. But it gets forgotten. It gets forgotten by this government. And in forgetting this, this obtuse government says the answer is more maths. Well, thank you. Should we give them some maths? As we speak, around 1.1 million workers in this country are in a dispute, either with the government or with their employers. And they're fighting for fair pay, reasonable conditions, and for the future of the services that they provide. Posties, transport workers, bus drivers, nurses, healthcare professionals, ambulance staff, environmental staff, and firefighters, might I say, are in this fight together. Today, around 500,000 workers have walked out. 320,000 teachers, 100,000 civil servants, and 20,000 rail workers, 70,000 further education workers, over 500,000 workers. That is the maths. The movement is growing and the feeling is building. We've got them worried and we've got them rattled, and they will do everything to stop us. Enough is enough. Monday, Monday was a historical day for us in the Fire Brigade Union. Firefighters in this country said enough to falling working conditions and below inflation pay rises, enough to cuts to our numbers and the destruction of our service, enough to the downgrading and the robbing of our fire stations, and enough to making it less safe for the communities we serve, enough for making it less safe for ourselves. Firefighters returned a verdict for these circumstances. Our ballot for industrial action, firefighters responded with a resounding yes. The voice of 32,000 firefighters has spoken, and we will join you. Like any worker, no firefighter takes this decision easily. It's our last resort, but we are sick and tired of the constant attacks on our pay and conditions and our numbers. In our profession, where every second counts and every minute is precious, the treatment of our service shows that this lot simply does not care about you, us, or the service we provide. We're sick of their words, more with less and a job to be done. We're sick of their ways, austerity for us, tax breaks for them, sick of their profiteering, sick of their neglect, and enough is enough. This government has lost its way in its obsessive worship with a system that forgets the people in it and leaves us to fend for ourselves, where life is cheap and the market is king, where our public services are put last and the running of them down is put first, where the rich are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer, money going to money, profits at record levels, and more millionaires, billionaires that you can shake a stick at. This change will come because we fight for it, and we demand change. This change starts here and comes from the picket lines, in public venues, on the shop floor, the town centres, outside town halls, hospitals, railway stations, sorting offices, ambulance stations, civil buildings, schools and outside fire stations. It will come from us standing up together in protest, standing up, fighting for our rights, conditions and our professions. Today, we in the FBU stand with the many unions and the workers in their fight for a better pay and a better future for this country. We stand in absolute solidarity with you all for the future of our country and for the future of our kids. Solidarity. Thank you, everybody.
Well done. Wonderful to see the flag of resistance flying so proudly here in Hastings. And thank you for inviting me to speak here today. Throughout every moment in our lives, and especially through the pandemic, we have relied on the NHS at every point in our life, truly from cradle to grave. Nurses and healthcare workers are the bedrock of our society. They look after the sick and they care for the dying. So it is a shame that our government have driven nurses to make the unprecedented step to vote for industrial action, which we are now in our third month for. We have been faced with over 10 years of pay restraint, which has resulted in nurses losing at least £6,000 a year in real terms. Over a third of nurses report skipping a meal in order to feed their families. Over half are working overtime just to make ends meet. There is now a direct referral to the food bank from our Ocky Health. And that's just simply wrong. Nurses waiting till payday to pay for their prescriptions for the long-term health conditions that they have, literally neglecting their own health while looking after the health of others. It is wrong. How else do we retain
the burnt-out, demoralised workforces, struggling with the trauma of COVID and the toll it's taken on our colleagues. We can all tell you of someone we've lost during the COVID pandemic. And faced with an unprecedented cost of living crisis, should nurses really have to choose between heating and eating? We are over 47,000 short of nurses. And the solution's simple. We have to pay the nurses what they're asking for. But these are the same issues affecting teachers. This morning, listening to teachers talking with passion about their profession on the radio, I hear the same issues arising. Cutting pay, more expected for less, safety and effectiveness, no more than a mere afterthought. We are striking because we've seen our working conditions become increasingly unsafe. As nurses, we are natural advocates for our patients. And it is our public duty to raise the alarm. We have seen the NHS on life support for too long, with the Tories with their hands on the oxygen tubing, starving of resources and year-on-year failure to fund it properly. It is our greatest institution, yet through political choices, we are having seen its managed decline as piece by piece is outsourced or sold off to cronies. Political choices like the 38 billion to the failed track or trace, or the PPE that had to be burnt, while nurses were making do with black bin bags. Shameful. This can be settled in a week. Tax Ireland has called repeatedly for the government to come to the table, but they have shown us and all other workers utter contempt. Not to mention the anti-strike legislation they wish to pass that calls for minimum staffing levels on strike days. They must indeed be a capita, as one side on the picket line pointed out, because they're truly taking the pee. We have for years and years campaigned and called out for safer staffing within the RCN. It's crucial for patient safety that we have a safe patient-to-staff ratio. But shift after shift, we are failing to meet this. And only now, in their wicked draconian attempts to suppress workers' freedom, do they care. Shame on them. This is a fight for nurses, but this is also a fight for the NHS. And let me state this loud and clear today and every day. The NHS does not belong to the government. The NHS does not belong to any private entity. The NHS is the people's NHS. Yes, the NHS is the people's NHS and we want it back. Whose NHS? Our NHS! We are now in the third month of industrial action and the government continues to show blatant disrespect to Pat Cullen and the nurses by their failure to talk. We have no cause for despondency, however, as our leader is tenacious and clear in her fight for our aims, just as the nurses will know not to give up. We have been heartened to see the public behind us on the picket line with their horns beeping, in their words of support, and the fact they know our fight is not simply a pay demand, but a last-ditch battle to save our NHS. What we have seen today, and in the last few months, is what gives us hope. In the power of the unions and the collective strength that we have together, across all sectors that are taking industrial action, we have a common aim. That the ordinary working people of Britain deserve a pay rise. We deserve to eat decent food and keep our homes. We will fight for good education for our children, for safe and affordable public transport, for a fully nationalised NHS without outsourcing, for carers respected as an esteemed career and paid justly, and full respect to our overseas workers who are holding this country together. For the posties, for the fire staff, for the plethora of workers who've said that enough is enough, because it's truly wrong that the 12 years of austerity has meant that the population struggle while the rich get richer. We are truly being trolled by the Tories. And basically to say enough is enough. The working class is back, the unions are back, and we're stronger than ever. We stand united. Solidarity.
Thank you for everyone who's spoken so far today. There's certainly no way that I could attempt to try and to follow them. I was asked at about 8 o'clock this morning if I'd speak, and in my head, I knew that moment was coming where I'd be asked to speak, and in my head I was just saying to myself, say no, but something came up from my heart. For me personally, that's what the trade union movement is all about. It's from the heart. It's about the passion and the belief that we deserve better. As civil servants, particularly as civil servants at the level that myself and fellow PCS members are at here today, I don't think there's ever been a time before where we felt so underappreciated and undervalued as we do right now. There were various different levels of the civil service, but at the level I'm at, I deal with benefit claimants each and every day. I speak to them on the phone, and we're feeling a lot of anger at the moment from them, and it's really they're not angry at us, but we're the only point of contact they have, and they direct their anger at us because of what's going on in the country. I have to deal with vulnerable people. I speak to vulnerable people each and every day. We do, my fellow members of PCS, we speak to vulnerable people very often, especially at the moment. We take phone calls from people who threaten to kill themselves. We have to try and talk them around and talk them out of that. And what do we get in return? Well, what we get in return is we found out 2 weeks ago that as from April, we will be minimum wage workers, which is absolutely disgusting, and we will not stand for that at all. Several of my colleagues, some of us have worked from home in the pandemic, some of us have come into the office, and it's absolutely disgraceful when I hear people like Jacob Rees-Mogg, self-entitled people like Jacob Rees-Mogg, who say we should all come back to the office because we're lazy for being at home. Well, I don't know about everyone else here, but I certainly haven't fallen asleep, laid down at work like Jacob Rees-Mogg did last year. So, as I said earlier on, I really haven't got a huge amount to say. There's been some wonderful things that have been said already, and I absolutely echo what everyone else has said. Just very much appreciate everyone being here today and showing your support. And I think very often we can occasionally be forgotten about in the civil service. We're kind of the hidden public service. But as with all public servants at the moment, whether it be nurses, teachers, police, fire brigade, we are overstretched. We are massively overstretched, and this is just the first step. Enough is enough. We will not sit down and take this anymore. Okay, the government do not listen to us. If they are not willing to negotiate with us, then we will continue with this action, and we will take it further until we get what we are fighting for. Thank you very much.
racism. Simon Hester.
Thank you, Christian, and thank you to the NEU asking me to speak. I want to say thank you, actually, to all you people on strike. The teachers, the civil servants, the train drivers who are not here, the rail workers, the nurses, and all those other workers who will be taking strike action, because you at last, we're standing up. People are standing up and fighting back, and the movement is growing. There are 500,000 on strike today. Nurses and ambulance workers will be on strike again on Monday next week, and again on Tuesday, and Jenny was talking about dates in March. We've got to keep this rolling forward and getting bigger and bigger. Now, because of the wonders of modern technology, you can find out a bit about what's happening. Is that still on? 500,000 on strike. Actually, by the way, we've still got a long way to go, because yesterday in France, 2 million on strike with massive demonstrations. We've got to follow the French. But they've been we reckon there were something like 350 to 400 people on the march today in Hastings, the biggest march in Hastings for years. But it's happening around the country. Around the country today, thousands are on the march. Here are some numbers that I picked up. 300 in Weymouth. We need Weymouth. 1,000 in York, thousands, they couldn't count them, in Oxford, 10,000 in Bristol, and tens of thousands in London on the march today. I want to be brief, and I don't want to repeat what others have said, but I think it's worth asking ourselves, what is the government strategy? Because the Observer newspaper 2 weeks ago said that the cabinet is split down the middle. Some of the ministers want to do a deal, some kind of deal, to stop the strikes, and that's why they might try and do something to take the NHS off the table and split the movement. They might try and do that. But there's others in the cabinet who want to take a hard line. They're Tories, we're neoliberals, we don't give an inch, we're the hard bastards. There's a fight going on at the top of the Tory party. So we know that they're divided, we know they're isolated, and because of that, they're weak. And I think if the movement continues to grow the way it has done in the last 6 months, all those strikes and all those people fighting back, I think we can win. We know that strikes are popular because the ballots are absolutely massive, and whenever people go on strike, they get huge amounts of support. We can win. We can beat this rabble who are in charge at the moment. Points. I'm not going to repeat what people have said about the anti-union laws, the new restrictions, but I have to say, with a rising movement like this, I think it's quite possible we can just sweep them aside. I don't think it's going to have the effect that they think it will, because we're mobilising, we're organising, people are angry, and we're starting to feel confident. And the fear is changing side. The nervousness is changing sides. I think if we keep this going, we can force the government back. Whatever rules they bring in, we can defy them and we can push on. But there is something else that's much more insidious and dangerous than the government is doing. And they're deliberately now stoking the fires. They're seeking to divide and rule by openly, blatantly scapegoating refugees. Two weeks ago, Rishi Sunak, the Prime Minister, presented a Conservative Party political broadcast. You can catch it on iPlayer. It's horrible to watch, but I would suggest it's worth watching. 2 weeks ago, and he made 3 points in 5 minutes in his party political broadcast. 1, the economy is safe in their hands. 2, the NHS is safe in their hands. 3, look at all those people arriving in small boats, using up taxpayers' money by staying in hotels. It was utter, blatant racist scapegoating. They say they want to drive the people smugglers and the gangs out of business. Good. But you do that by offering desperate refugees a safe way to get here. The People's Smugglers business plan is based on a hostile environment for refugees. The more hostile, the better for them. Prices go up. Providing safe passage would remove the people smugglers and save people from having to make the decision to try and cross the channel in a dinghy. And we know that safe passage is possible. We know it's possible because it's happening. It's happening for Ukrainian refugees from the war and the Russian invasion of Ukraine, who are not only welcomed, and they should be welcomed. We welcome the refugees in Ukraine. They're not just welcomed, they're given free travel, free train and ferry tickets all the way across Europe. Good. Why is that not being provided for people from other war zones and from other disasters? And it's not about the numbers, they're not about all these large numbers coming across in the dinghies, and it's far too high. But there's far, far more refugees arriving here from Ukraine than from Afghanistan or Yemen or Egypt or Sudan, who are the refugees we're meeting when on the beach when they arrive at Hastings, or in the hotel when they get placed in the hotel in Hastings. There were over 200,000 Ukrainians allowed in. Good. Over 150 people from Hong Kong fleeing from repression in Hong Kong. Good. I welcome them. But that has to apply to the tinier numbers for fleeing from other countries as well. This is racist scapegoating. It's a deliberate strategy which used to be the area of the far right and the fascists. Is now being put forward by the Tory parties. It's insidious. It's really, really dangerous. Which is one of the reasons that the unions, trade unions, especially the National Education Union, have been taking such a really strong stand against what's going on and in defence of refugees. On Saturday, there's a trade union conference in London with speakers from PCS, NEU and the rest, organised by the TUC and Stand Up to Racism, but much more importantly than a conference, there's a demonstration in London on March the 18th, called by the TUC and Stand Up to Racism of virtually every trade union, saying, resist racism, don't let the movement we've developed split down the middle, caused by racist scapegoating. The Unison branch of health workers based at the Conquest Hospital took a vote at their meeting. They have provided a free coach. Let's hope we get more than one. We need more than one coach going to London. There's a free coach going from Hastings. We need people to get up to London on March the 18th to make the fight against racism part of the fight against this Tory government in all its policies and all its attempts to make working people pay for the mess that they have made for the rest of us. I think a magnificent, absolutely magnificent action today can be a mortal blow against this government, a really serious blow. Some of us can remember what happened when the poll tax movement derailed and brought down Margaret Thatcher. I think we're into that kind of territory. We've got to think like we were building a movement to kick out this government once and for all. We don't have to put up with this. See you on the streets. Let's have some more strikes. Let's build a movement.
And thank you very much to Bella from the RMT, Leo from the FBU, Antonia from the RCN, Joe from the PCS, and Simon for the Trades Council for your wonderful contributions to today's rally. But particular thanks to all the teachers that have taken a stand today, that have come out on strike, that have taken a stand for pay, for the kids' education, but for public services. I think we can agree it's been a brilliant rally, but this isn't the end, this is just the beginning. And if you are in the NEU in Hastings, our next strike action will be on the 2nd of March, but before then, we have a general meeting for NEU members across Hastings on the 22nd of February. We want as many people as possible to come along to that meeting, because we then need to get back into our schools to galvanise all the teachers to take strike action on the 2nd of March and beyond there. So I want to just thank you all for coming again. It's been a brilliant, brilliant day. I think we can smell the solidarity in Hastings, and it's absolutely fantastic. So thanks very much.
I am so excited. It's always exciting to want to change the world. And remember what we are doing it for. We are doing this not for just as teachers. We are doing this for the future of our children, our grandchildren. And there are children here. Children here. I've seen lots of them. It's for them that we're doing it. It's not just for our pay. It's not just for that. It's also for teacher retention, recruitment, and so on. So thank you so much for coming. We truly appreciate you all for coming. Thank you. So, in the absence of any further business today, I bring this meeting to a formal close.